Hi, welcome to another video. Today I wanted to do a little bit of a different video than I typically do on the channel. I wanted to start a discussion with you guys about our relationship with horses. So in today's video, I will be talking about 10 ways that I've improved my relationship with horses. There's so much to cover in this topic, but I wanted to narrow it down to 10 things so that you guys could kind of look through it, maybe get some ideas, or if you could give me more ideas and we can just have a really nice discussion about this. It seems like all of you guys really love your horses, and I can tell from the comments and how you guys talk about horses and your horses that I have so much to learn from you as well. This is just my experience. I've been working with horses for 24 years. And it might not look like it. I look kind of like I'm 12, but I'm actually 27. And I started my horsemanship journey when I was 3 and then have been hooked ever since. So I've grown a lot and I've changed a lot. And there's so much more that I need to learn and grow from here as well. But I feel really, really proud of the relationships I've cultivated with my horses and the ability that I have to translate those connections to other horses. I feel really proud of the progress I've made, and I really wanted to share these with you because I really wish I had learned all of these things right at the beginning. I hope that this can give you some support regardless of the point that you're at in your journey with horses. I think it's a beautiful thing to constantly change and evolve and improve, especially with horses. So it's a beautiful day. I thought I would come out and film outside. So the first thing I have written down is I changed my perspective around horses. And so really trying to understand what a horse is, how they see the world, like how they visually see the world, and how they interact emotionally with the world. So they are obviously prey animals, and something that really helped me understand how to build a good relationship with a horse is understanding their fundamental needs. So for me to become a positive influence in their life, I wanted to be a really secure leader that gave them comfort and security. That shift really changed how I approach pretty much anything with horses, not putting too much pressure on them, making sure you're checking in with them. And I always try to check in and make sure, am I asking something that's fair? And how are they responding to it? And am I being the leader that they need in this moment? So sometimes that means being really reassuring and making sure that their energy comes down. But sometimes it also means helping them create a bit more energy and being a little bit more confident as a rider and more self-assured, which is something that I've really struggled with in the past, is having confidence in myself and my abilities. So making sure that I engage with the horse in a way that meets their needs. A lot of traditional training methods that I grew up learning is completely contradictory towards what a horse actually needs. I also stopped seeing horses through a human lens, and I tried to see them more as a horse. How do they view me from their perspective as like a leader or a partner and a caregiver? It changed how I problem solve, it changed how I care for them, and that can trickle down into every single part of what we do for horses, besides like groundwork and riding. You can be a really great leader without adding a ton of pressure and just being the person that your horse actually needs and not what you think they need. The second thing I have written down is I really tried to educate myself. So whether it's reading or watching documentaries or watching clinic DVDs, going to clinics, seeking help from professional trainers in different areas that I needed help in, those all have helped me grow in so many ways. It's helped me learn what I would like to be for my horse and how to do it. But it's also equally taught me what I don't want to be doing with horses. So sometimes you seek help from a professional and you actually see the way that they run things and the way that they interact with their horses, and it's not a very pleasant experience. I'm sure that we've all experienced that. And it's a good reminder that it can be easy to go down that road and not see it as a problem. So using that critical thinking and looking at how does this horse feel about the trainer and how does the horse feel about what's being asked of them, and seeing if it's a good fit. So yeah, a big one is just education, learning about not just how to interact with horses and how to educate horses, but also their care and like being very involved with every small detail. It makes a huge difference, like their nutrition, their pasture management, herd setting, all sorts of details that sometimes you don't have access to, but sometimes it's not a super common practice to be that involved in a barn's culture. So being able to educate yourself in a lot of different areas to be a better partner to your horse is really incredibly helpful, and it's helped me a lot. Number 3 is incredibly important with horses, and that is building patience. I am a very patient person now because of horses, but I wasn't really born super patient. But that is a skill that we can build, and that's a skill that I have built, and it helps in every situation involving horses. Having an abundance of patience is incredibly helpful. It can be as simple or as complex as you need it to be for it to apply to you. I can think of off the top of my head where this has really applied to me and what I do is when I'm trying to build confidence in my horses, it takes a very long time, and you don't want to end the session mid-progress because you're going to actually take a step backwards than make any progress. So patience really helps in that specific scenario. So something more specific is if I'm trying to get one of my horses really comfortable with a new object, like if it's a tarp or something, for example, and they're really nervous about it at first, if you introduce it and they're not improving, they're maybe getting more scared, and so you back off and you go do something else, that's going to be a little bit detrimental towards their relationship with tarps. So what you would want to do is incorporate patience and try maybe seeing their perspective, changing your method, and then really sticking it out and waiting until they make that change and that shift where they start to accept the new object, the new tarp, as something that's not dangerous, something that is just another obstacle that they've overcame and can overcome, and that helps them to improve their confidence. And then another thing that I learned actually the last year in a clinic that I went to is building relationship credits. I'm sure there's so many other terms for it, but the general idea is like having a bank account of relationship credits between you and your horse. And so if I want to subtract something from my horse in that like bank account, I guess, I need to make sure that I've built enough credit in order to withdraw any sort of credit from the horse. A really great example that I've learned from my experience in this way of thinking is Rowan is incredibly afraid of trailers, and she always has been. Something about the confined space, or maybe she had a bad experience before I had her. She would not load on the trailer, and I used to really try to push her, get her on the trailer, and the professional help I had kind of prioritized that method. But when I took a step back and started to build relationship credit, it looked like allowing her to take the time to process being around the trailer and having her head in the trailer and not putting so much pressure, and allowing for her to approach and retreat, literally taking as much time as she needed. That to her, from her perspective, and me as a leader, is building relationship credit, because she knows in that moment I'm building trust that I'm not going to force her on the trailer if she's not ready. And if she needs to take the emotional time that she needs to assess the trailer, that's totally fine because I don't know her history with trailers, and I don't want to pretend that she is doing anything maliciously, which kind of goes back to changing my perspective on horses, is understanding that they don't have the ability like people have to act out maliciously. They always have a reason, and so I need to be a good partner to them and try to understand their reasoning for the reaction that they have, even if it goes against my end goal. So that's a way that I've built relationship credit with her. Through that process, she follows me right on the trailer now with no hesitation. And it took months of work and patience, but that's a really good example to me that reiterates that it's so important to put more into your horse than what you ask of them. Because if you're consistently taking and not giving, they're gonna eventually stop giving, and it's just not fair to them. So number 5 is slow and steady progression, which kind of goes with the last example that I gave. So regardless of what it is that I'm trying to accomplish with my horses, I try to do things now really slow and really methodically, making a little bit of progress at a time rather than skipping ahead at different points. For example, with Ruby, reintroducing riding to her because she had time off. She was pregnant and she had time off, so I reintroduced the concept of riding to her after a long break and not a ton of education before. I didn't want to skip any steps of reintroducing riding to her because I wanted her to have a really good relationship to all aspects of riding. So each time that I work with her, I try to just make a little bit of progress and then we're done. And so we're not taking too much and we're not asking too much to where they end up not improving and not having a good relationship with you because maybe you're trying to ask too much of them. So on a small level, that's where it applies. But on a larger scale, another example is with Rowan. I would love to progress with her and try to move to the next level in eventing, which would be prelim. But I would never do that until she is ready. The way that I would progress her through the levels is very slow, small increments, so that she basically doesn't even notice that she's made such a big adjustment between the levels. And if at any point she tells me that that is too much or we're going too quickly, then I would back off and go back to the slow, steady increments, or maybe just stick with what we're at for the time being. Number 6 is kind of 2, but it's consistency and showing up, but also appropriate time off. To me, it is just as important to consistently show up for your horse, have a really set, established routine, as it is important to give them appropriate time off. Taking time off and giving horses the break that their body and that their mind needs between the work that you're doing. So showing up for your horse consistently in small ways is so much more meaningful to them than showing up in a big way every once in a while. Coming out to work with your horse, even if it's just for 10 minutes, maybe 4 days a week, versus like a 30-40 minute ride once a week. The smaller rides are going to make a bigger difference than the larger ride. And the reason for that is because horses really crave routine, they crave consistency, and that to them means safety. So making sure that what you are doing with them is a part of their routine helps you progress so much quicker and so much more positively than just kind of every once in a while. But equally, it's so important to give them the appropriate amount of time off. I'm a really firm believer that it helps create longevity in your horses and it helps them like their job even more. And giving them the time off that their body needs, especially younger horses and horses older, it's so important to give their body the recovery time that it needs while they are in work. What I do for my horses, which really helps me as well because we don't have an indoor arena and we live in Michigan, is Every winter they have about 2 months completely off, and at that point I'm caring for them. I'm doing a little bit of groundwork when I can, but mostly they are enjoying themselves as a herd, kind of just resting and doing whatever they would like to do. And this helps if there's anything kind of going on underneath the surface that maybe you're not catching, or maybe that they're not letting you know about. It helps give time to those things that might need the time off to heal or to show up. And then when you come back, you can reassess it. Number 7 is to listen to your horse and really show up for them as an ally. Give them the benefit of the doubt. So what I mean by listening to them is making sure we are looking at them, like I said earlier, as horses versus people. And using that sort of logic can help you decode what it is that they're trying to tell you. So that means listening to your horse and what they're saying in front of you, seeing if maybe they prefer bitless, maybe they need less pressure, maybe they need a little bit more encouragement, or maybe they need a change in their routine, a change in their feed. Sometimes horses will display behaviors like bucking or rearing or bolting, and we might write it off as just a behavioral issue. Sometimes it really can be, but also that doesn't mean that it shouldn't be investigated and discussed with a professional. So if your horse is telling you something, always listen and try to get some help if you don't know how to fix the problem yourself. Number 8 should have been probably at the top of the list, but again, I didn't make this in any order. But groundwork is so important, and I think especially in more English type disciplines, I'm in the eventing world, I feel like groundwork is really not prioritized. And especially like after a certain point when you are consistently riding, I feel like groundwork kind of takes the backseat, at least in the communities that I've been around in eventing. But I think it is one of the most important parts of working with horses is groundwork. It can help you build a relationship with your horse and find a common language. You can learn so much more about your horse's personality and tendencies from the ground than what you can under saddle, I think. And it can help you both trust each other and have a really deep connection. You can also explore so many fun things with your horse from the ground. I like to use groundwork with my horses very regularly, at least once a week. And that can look like a lot of different things, but mostly it's me checking in, making sure that we are communicating well, making sure I can see them from the ground, see if anything's going on, and then we kind of problem solve together. It can be a really good, not only like bonding experience for you and your horse, but it can give your horse a lot of self-confidence. And I really believe that a confident horse is really the end goal with all of these things I'm talking about, is just creating a really confident horse that is happy to be in your company and feels comforted by you. Number 9 is having more fun with your horse. And that can look a lot like going for trail rides, hacking with friends, or trying something new like a neck rope, try to do bridless. You could do liberty work. That's something that I'm trying out with my horses right now, is liberty work. And it's so fun for them. And it's a really fun way for both of us to try something new and problem solve together, which of course strengthens our partnership. But breaking up all of the training sessions has helped my relationship with my horses so much, because of course I want to have an organized list of things we need to do to progress, but equally it's so important for that to be broken up with something fun and engaging for them. You could try all sorts of things with your horse, trick training. You could try groundwork, stretches, or new grooming methods, or pretty much anything that your horse could really enjoy and you could be a part of. It's really important to me to incorporate that in our normal sessions so that they can feel like they're enjoying themselves just as much as we are. And I've noticed since I've been doing this, when I go out in the pasture and I have my halter in my hand, they walk right up to me because they're really excited to see what we're doing. Horses do crave routine and they crave stability and consistency, but I think it's also very important to change things up with your horse when it comes to their environment with training. So that way, if you do want to take them off property ever, it's not a big obstacle for them. Make it really exciting and normal to change up. Maybe you ride out in the field, or maybe you do a hand walk in the field. Like that, all sorts of things you can do with your horse can change up their kind of routine and bring a bit more purpose back into their regular work. And number 10, I kind of talked about it a little bit already earlier, but just becoming more involved with your horse's care. And that, of course, depends on your situation. If you're keeping a horse somewhere or keeping them at home, will definitely dictate what it is that you can have control over and be involved in. Already, by kind of watching videos like this and educating yourself, you're already doing that. So taking a more involved role in your horse's care. For me, I was really, really fortunate to be able to take this step by having a horse's home and having to be really involved. But it wasn't really normalized at the barns that I was boarding at to be incredibly involved in every single decision. Pretty normal where I'm based to leave a lot of those decisions to the facility that you're boarding at. But taking a more active role can really help you be your horse's biggest supporter and make really well-informed decisions for them. Showing up and speaking to your farrier when they come out, understanding what they're doing, being there for all the vet appointments if you can, and understand their notes and what they have to say, understanding them from a nutritional perspective, what supplements might they need or what needs to change in their feed to maybe make a positive impact. Are they getting enough forage? Are they getting enough turnout time? Or do you need to make an adjustment or ask someone to make an adjustment that would maybe improve their life outside of when you're around them? Because I think it can be really easy to think that their life revolves around when we're around them and when we're asking something of them, but their life is just as complex as ours, and they have full 24 hours to their day. Being more involved throughout that whole day of their care can make a really positive impact and maybe help you learn even more about them, why they have certain tendencies or why they might not like certain things, which is what we're all kind of trying to do by learning more about them. So those are my 10 ways that I've helped improve my relationship with my horses. I really hope this was helpful, and I hope that it starts a discussion. I'd love to hear it from you because there are so many other things that I could have included, but had to kind of shrink it down. I'm sure I missed so many important things, and if you think of anything, we can talk about it in the comments. I love hearing from you guys, and I really, really appreciate you spending this time with me. I'll see you very soon in the next video. Bye!